So one of the things that characterizes a lot of these streams in the Chattahoochee Basin and the Flint River too, I think, is when you get a big flood, and we had some about a month ago. We had a couple hurricanes come through here and probably raised these creeks probably 10-12 feet higher than they are right now. And after a flood, the shorelines get this kind of the beach effect, if you will, where there's just all this light colored dirt underneath the trees. It's very noticeable because, of course, you're not used to having that. You have a lot of leaf litter under them. So these streams have so much sediment in them that when you get a big flood, not only does it flush the sediment downstream, it also moves it laterally out of the creek and onto the banks. And so it builds the banks that way, as well as moving it downstream. So sediment, of course, is not a great thing. Cows, they exacerbate the problem because they go in and out of the stream. The stream is their source of water, so they go from the fields to the stream and then back to the fields. And they're big, heavy animals with hooves, and so they just literally tramp down the vegetation and disturb the soil, and just basically every time it rains you get more sediment coming off those banks and sliding into the streams. And that's why cows are not great for streams unless they're fenced out, and that's a big thing, especially for trout streams out west, is fencing cattle out of the streams to prevent that same thing from happening. But here you can see, look how far up that sediment goes. It's all the way up to that first bench right there. And then behind it you can see the darker bank where it never got up that high this particular time. In a really, really big flood, it would have gotten over the second bench and flooded back into the woods, and there'd be sediment all the way back there. Another stream that I fish not far from here, I've seen sediment probably 300 yards back into the trees before from really big floods. Sediment is normal in streams. Sediment transport is part of the natural stream process. But when you have an excess of sediment because of land cover changes, once upon a time this was all, old forest. So sediment transport was very, very low. But now we have divided all this up, chopped a lot of the trees down, turned it into apartment complexes and cities and house and individual dwellings and cattle farms and cotton farms and all of that, and that has increased the sediment many fold over what it used to be. And so excess sediment in streams can be real problematical. It buries shoals, it buries rock, habitat that fish like to use, it's particularly need to spawn. Shiners and minnows and suckers all need good gravel, shoaly places in order to spawn. Bass, a little less of a concern for bass because they're nest builders, and so they actually guard the eggs, and just them. Sometimes they actively fin over to them, but just the act of guarding them disturbs the sediment and washes it downstream, so the eggs won't smother. But for the more the fish that don't provide parental care, which is truthfully most of them in fresh water, they have real problems with that. So sediment's a real big deal. It exists. An excess of sediment exists in almost all streams in the southeastern United States, and it's a legacy really from past poor farming uses that we are still living with today.